Welcome back to another new episode on Retro Game Revival. Today I got something pretty interesting, at least I think so. This is a Neo Geo MVS game called Street Hoop, and, well, you might be able to tell something bad happened here. Let me try and get a better angle on that. Not sure if it's really obvious, but I'll do a macro shot in a second. This thing somehow managed to get burned. Even the socket itself has some burn damage, so I had to hold off my excitement opening this because I wanted to do it on camera. And I'll take a couple of close-up shots on the cart connector, but we're going to open this up and let's discover together what might have gone wrong here. Alright, so this is rather difficult, getting a steady shot. I'm doing this by hand, and as you can see, some major damage occurred here. It's pretty burnt. Some traces completely seem to have been pushed back. This seems okay. How about the other side? Some hairs. One on this end that's pretty bad. These seem okay at first glance. Try and get in there. I have no idea what happened. Could be multiple things going on. Somebody could have opened this up before and installed the bottom board wrong, like upside down, causing it to short. The machine itself in which it was installed could have shorted and caused this, or something got spilled and then put into a cartridge. I don't know. Well, find out. Let's open it up and see what's in there. Alright, so you've just seen me disassemble it. I haven't opened this up beyond the point that you've just seen, so I'm really curious to find out what's in here. So let's open it up. So we're going to take the top board out. Yeah, bottom board is in the orientation I would assume it'll be in. Oh, there's some, let's see if I can get a better shot. Some bulging going on in the plastic. Yeah, you can see that burned pretty severely. Actually smells like it burnt as well, so that doesn't bode well. I'm gonna try and get this out without damaging or further damaging the traces, like that. I'm gonna put this to the side for a moment. Now, I'm afraid if I'm going to pull the plastic that holds the boards together, this one trace that you see up here might tear off, but on the other hand, I'll have to repair it anyway, so let's try and be real careful about that. And I say real careful, I'll probably snap it on accident. That'll be just my luck. Oh, actually, it's hardly moving, like the plastic might even got molten onto the PCB. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was molten on there. I pull it back. That trace isn't looking too hot. Let's, you shouldn't really do this by hand. Hold on, let me get something to straighten that, and I'll be back in a moment before this goes horribly wrong. Alright, so I grabbed a pair of flathead tweezers. Now, doing this on camera again isn't the easiest thing, but I'm going to try and straighten this. Yeah, there we go. Hope that got caught on camera. Let me flatten that a bit. Same goes. Let me try and zoom in and do it on the other one. Come on, focus. So this one here is also pushed back a bit, so I'm just grabbing it and straightening that out. Oh, that's so scary. Alright, that seems to have done it. This one over here is a bit lifted, but it looks like the traces are still there, so that's good. Oh yeah, that's the cat. I'm missing some over here, am I? Nope, they're pushed back as well. So I'm going to push those back and attend my cat, who's making a big scene upstairs. Yeah, I'll straighten those out and we'll take this off and have a look around. Alright, so that went pretty straightforward. As you can see though, if it wants to focus, let me try and get that to focus. Maybe like that. Alright, there we go. That plastic is bent real bad and warped due to heat, so yeah, I'll have to do something about that. Might actually be able to 3D print a new one. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, let's see if we can do that and look into that later, and when successful I'll obviously give out the files for free again, same as I did with the Sega Nomad. At the bottom board of this I had two traces. Let's see, that one and that one, and both of those were bent inwards and folded back. It was a bit weird, but yeah, got those back. I'll obviously have to clean this up, and as you can see, they're at a bit of an angle sometimes as well, so I'll have to use I think epoxy or something to get that to stick down on the board once that's cleaned. And this is absolutely filthy. However, I don't know if this is a bodge wire that's there by default. There's some weird solder blob going on here, and the rest actually seemed okay, with one exception being at the bottom here I have another bodge wire. So I'm gonna go look up MVS scans and see, first of all, if this is actually an original, and second of all, if those wires are there by default, and if so, if not, actually remove them. If so, check these chips and start from there. What I want to do though is try and see if I can isolate where these pins are going onto the motherboard, if they're either data lines or power lines, and yeah, I'm gonna take it from there. Just for the fun of it, here's another close-up, and I haven't looked at it through a light and everything. I think the fire originated here, but this is actually a data line, and I don't see how that would cause such a catastrophic fail. Let me flip this around and show you the other side. Now, oh, some nice hair in there. I actually do think that is my cat's. There we go. Now, what I actually do think might have happened, and this is the same pin on the other side, so both of them are kind of lifted up and out due to, well, I assume due to the heat, and then the rest has just been smoldering. So what I think happened in this case is the pins that we bent back earlier, they actually may have caused a short circuit, and that might have led to what we're seeing here. I have no other theory at the moment what might be going on. I'm gonna dig into this a bit more, but just looking at the pinout on the Neo Geo Dev Wiki and tracing them back, I believe the ones that we're looking at over here are the fixed D0 through fixed D7, and the burnt one further down here. That one is a SD-MRD trace. I'll have to look up what it does exactly because I don't know, to be honest, but I'll keep you updated. For the record, this is the bottom board and this is the top board, right? And, well, kind of a dead giveaway, there's no markings anywhere. Looking up on the MVS scans website, these are the boards that are supposed to be the original street hoop. And, well, board 1, for example, if you have a look at my board 1, that's not the best. But, yeah, that doesn't quite seem quite correct, does it? Chips are in different places, and yeah. So I'm pretty confident mine is actually a bootleg. However, it will still be cool to be able to play this, and currently I have zero suspicion of failures on this board other than the bit of ugly botch wires here, and this shit over there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up. I am going to replace the 4 horrible caps that are on there. I don't even know what brand these are. Forever. I doubt they'll last forever. But I'm going to replace those just in case, because I don't quite trust that they're still up to par, if like literally lots of power might have gone through here and may have fried some chips. But I have a couple of test MVS boards that I'm willing to try this out on, and well, if that fails, that'll be another great episode, I guess, right? So I'm going to clean it up, recap it, and I'll show you how that ends up being. Along the way, I'll record how I'm going to reattach these. Will either be epoxy or super glue, but yeah, that's going to be the plan for now. Alright, so checking out the Neo Geo Dev Wiki, I found pin 39 on the Neo D0, and that's the SD MRD that we were talking about earlier. And it says down here the SD MRD, and that is the Z80 ROM RAM read. So that controls what's being read to the Z80. It's possible that the machine it was installed in, this game, failed and had a power surge across that, causing it to burn up. Possibly. I'll try and read a bit more and see what I can find out and report back when I find anything. Alright, so I didn't realize this until earlier, and here I was going with my isopropyl alcohol trying to clean this up. Obviously this is plastic residue that's just molten onto these pins. So what I've had to do, as I've done on 2 or 3 of these, I'm using a sharp tool in order to scrape off the plastic that's literally been fused onto this. Try and do an example here, but this is proven to be quite a nightmare. I need to make sure that I only move the tool downwards, because for example this one, I'll try and show you. Can you see that? Yeah, it's loose, so I'm gonna have to scrape off the plastic that's burned onto it, and I think this is, yeah, that's a good one. And then I need to use a fiber pen, and again only doing a downward motion because I'm really afraid I'm gonna yank or pull one of these off. So I'm doing a downward motion in order to clean off all the small residue and try and make this workable again. And I think this one is good, the exception that it's a bit springy, as you can see, but we'll solve that at a later point. So I'm gonna have to do that for all of these, and on the other side of the board, flip that over, and on these. And then I'll do another pass using some cotton buds and IPA, and probably do another cleanup with a brush over with the fiberglass pen to make sure that everything's gone off of there. But once I've done that, I'll show you the end result. Alright, so I did clean up the PCB fingers, and as you can see, it's not looking too hot. Some of them just stripped off the board as soon as I got the plastic bits off of it. So I'm gonna have to use some resin or epoxy to bond them back to the PCB. I've got the Bison Combi Power to do that. Hopefully that'll work out. But this is the main attraction. This is a ultrasonic cleaner, and I'm gonna put the board, the lower piece of the board, and then put that in there and get all the dust and debris that's still left on there. I'm gonna try and get that off using ultrasonic. So I'm gonna make a time lapse out of that because this thing makes a very painful high-pitched noise, but it is very effective. I've shown this on my Twitter. I put a couple things in there that were badly corroded. Had some of these Amiga 500 expansion boards, and yeah, they cleaned up really well. I'll make a time lapse off of this, and if I'm correct, if I put this in, it should actually create a cloud of debris coming off of this, which is actually pretty cool to see. So I'll try and zoom in on that for you as well, and well, have fun watching. Alright, so this cleaned up pretty well. Sadly, I couldn't catch any of the clouds of debris or dirt coming off of this, but this has been cleaned tremendously. So yeah, still super happy. One of the things that did happen though, that second lifted pad just broke off. This was before putting it in the ultrasonic. This was just cleaning it by hand. I actually checked on the pinout, and this is not connected, so we should be good. That's not going to be an issue. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to do it one side at a time. I'm going to mix up some of the epoxy resin and just going to try and glue these down. After I've done that, I might use some aluminium or copper tape, put that over it, and try and give it a bit of extra strength. And yeah, what I want to do on these as well is tin them after having epoxied them, and when that has dried, obviously I'll have to sand it down a bit so as the gaps between each of these legs is level and I can insert it properly. But yeah, then I'm going to tin them up a bit just to add a bit of strength. Maybe put some copper tape over it and use solder to reattach the legs to the piece of tape. And I guess when that's all done, we can try it out and see what happens. Oh, and I need to replace these forever caps, but yeah, we can do that after we've tested it and verified it's working. For now, I'm gonna do the epoxy and I'll show you guys the results. So I've had a couple of attempts actually. Let me just show you what happens. So as you can see, these are the legs that previously were bent all the way up, etc., etc. Now I've tried adding some copper foil tape onto this and then soldering that pin to it to make a connection, but this is far too fragile. As you may have noticed, it's bending up. This one actually just broke loose entirely, so that's not really gonna cut it. I've initially tried gluing this side down with some 2-second glue. That wasn't really holding it either for me. So let me flip this around and show you what the proper solution that I'm going to go forward with turned out being. So as you may see, this is looking really sturdy. So what I've done here is I've just exposed the PCB or these fingers, like on this end, just removed the tape, added a tiny bit of solder with some desoldering braid just to give it a bit of grip. And I had these, let me grab them. I had these copper shims, these that are initially used for, laptop CPUs or something to dissipate the heat between the heatsink and the CPU more properly. And I've cut these into tiny, tiny strips. Let me grab one of them. I've cut these to size, and then I applied a bit of solder to one side, put them on the metal that was still there, and just heat it up and makes a great connection. I've then used some files to file it more flush to the PCB, as well as chamfering these edges so that you can easily slot it back into the MVS. So yeah, this is actually looking like a really good solution. It's very sturdy. I can wiggle them around with, touch, as well as use the little metal tool to see how strong the connection was, and it's holding up fine. Now, I do need to add that I did use the epoxy beneath these pins, but that was actually separating as well when trying to heat it up. So I don't think I'll have to do that for this side. I'm just going to use the copper shims that I've made and solder these on here, and that should give it enough strength on its own. So I'm going to do that for this side again as well, and I guess we can reassemble and see what happens. I'm pretty sure this is not going to burn down the MVS. I think what happened is the MVS this was plugged into may have short-circuited, or one of these pins got pushed back, made a bad connection between, you know, like ground or something and a voltage line, and that caused it to burn. But having it restored like this, I don't see how these lines, because they're all data lines as I showed previously, how these may cause such a catastrophic failure. So I'm just going to fix these. I'll show the results, we'll plug it in, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I thought I'd show you my process. So I removed the copper tape from these legs, and what I'm doing here is I'm just going to take my soldering iron and simply tin them like that. That's all it needs. I'll just do one to show how I'm going to do all of them, and I'll do the rest off camera because I think this is going to be a long process. So I then take some desoldering braid, and again it's really simple. So I'm just going to remove all the excess solder that I just put on there. I'm going to wait for a second for it to heat and drag it along here, and that just very, very lightly tins the pads. Let me see if I can zoom in to show. Here we go. So just do the other one next to it. So just on that one, doing this one now. So again, take my desoldering braid, put it on here, wait for a moment for the solder to melt, and I'll just drag this across, and now all the excess solder is gone, and just leaves a very, very tiny amount to attach the plug onto. So onto that one next. I've got one ready here, and it's a very similar procedure. So because this is copper, it actually conducts heat really well. So I'll just put it down here, put this to the side, and I'm going to put my soldering iron onto it just to heat it up a bit, and then lightly tap the solder on there so it creates a very small amount, very generous. Put it on there. I'm going to make sure that isn't hot before I touch it. Let me actually get some tweezers because that'll be slightly easier. So put that to the side. I'm going to take this, maybe flip it around. Oops, dropped it. Flip it around so we've got the copper side up. Just going to put that on there, roughly in position, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold it on, just heat it up, and that's it. It's firmly on there. So as you can see, just going to do that for all of these pins, and then I'll come back and try it out, see if it works. Alright, so it's been a little while on my end. I think it took about an hour and a half maybe, but both sides are done now. Let me try and focus on this. Yep. So this is the side I've done previously, and this is the other side. It's not perfect. It's got a bit of, I sanded too much away here, but hey, end of the day, I kind of really want to test this. And this is a game called Street Hoop, and it's actually very inexpensive. I think it's about 50 euros on eBay currently, and this is a bootleg of that game, so it's really not worth that much. More than anything, this has been an exercise in seeing if I can fix this kind of issue at all, and I wanted to take you along on the ride. Now I think this is looking pretty good for the time being, so I'm going to reassemble it. I'm going to use the old shell and leave the old caps on for now, because I'm just really curious if it works at all. I think I'm going to do a part 2 where I'm going to take the center that holds the two boards into the shell and recreate this, because it suffered quite a bit of damage from the burn. It's not really focusing now. It doesn't show too well, but I've shown this previously. It took some damage, so just to make it look nice again, I might just go and make and 3D print that. I'm gonna have to recap it, but for now I'm gonna reassemble it, and I'll show you on the TV with my MVS if it's gonna run. All right, so I've set up my MVS, got everything hooked up, so I'm gonna plug in the power and see what happens. Now, if this blows up, then there's not much I can do. I'll upload the video regardless. If this does work, there'll be a part 2, and I think I might need to redo some of those pins at some point, but for now it didn't seem like they're connecting one another, so there goes nothing. It's booting, no fire yet. Oh, the sound is very low, doesn't matter, just want to see if the game runs at all. And it does seem to work, so that's great. We've got a running street hoop again. It was a lot of work, but let's see, 4, 5 coins, yeah, sure. Perfect. Nice. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the first part of this. I will be releasing a part 2 soon, where we're gonna fix some parts of the cart, and hope to see you guys next time.